Hey, it's Tim with the University of Vinyl, back today with a new video. I want to talk about another pressing plant. I've already covered Specialty Records Corporation, SRC, in my first pressing plant video. Check that out. I'm going to make a new playlist for these because I'm going to feature a few of these, I think. But today I'm going to talk about one of the most vaunted, one of the most legendary audiophile geek pressing plants, if you will, that people have been talking about for decades, and that's none other than Monarch Record Manufacturing Company, originally based in West Los Angeles, just west of the 405 freeway. They eventually moved into the San Fernando Valley. So why the legendary status of the Monarch pressings? If you scan the Steve Hoffman forum, you will eventually find a multi-page thread talking about this. I think the title was "What's So Special About Monarch Pressings?" And aficionados and vinyl record obsessives will tell you they all seem to have just that special oomph. There just seems to be more there. When we're talking about a great sounding pressing, you know, some of the accolades that we're always looking for, or things that we use to describe a great sounding pressing: a full wide soundstage, incredible separation of instruments, clarity on the low end, and great bass response on the low end, with a warm sounding mix of mids and highs. That is just some of the attributes that people will assign to Monarch pressings. Also, some people theorize, there's a couple different theories out there. Some people think that they used a higher quality vinyl compound, and that if you hold up those Monarch records, those Monarch pressed records, there's a certain sheen that you will see, that the surface of the vinyl just seems to be shinier than other pressings from other pressing plants that you may have. Now, the other thing that people talk about is the proximity factor. They were based in West LA during the 1960s and 1970s. They were less than a mile away, as the crow flies, from one of the best plating facilities in Los Angeles. And then if we think about all the mastering facilities that were in Los Angeles, as well as all the recording studios, the theory is that Monarch were a preferred pressing facility. You could quickly get promos and quick pressing openings at Monarch because of their proximity. So there is a theory out there that because of the proximity factor, they were a preferred pressing facility, and they worked with all of the majors and also independent labels as well. This was a busy shop, and it's interesting. I included a Google Maps view of the former original location on West Jefferson Boulevard, and you can see, actually, if you go on Google Maps and type in that address, you can actually see the ghost letters of the old Monarch Record Manufacturing Company. Very cool. So that's today. I'm going to talk about Monarch Record Manufacturing Company. Let's briefly touch on the history of Monarch before we move forward. Company was originally formed in 1945. They moved to that West Jefferson location in the late 1940s, and they really were on the forefront of pressing records during the 1950s, the 1960s, and 1970s. In 1970, the company was purchased by Vulex, which was a conglomerate that owned a couple other pressing plants on the East Coast. But they kept Monarch as a standalone subsidiary company, so Monarch still kind of operated under their own principles and their own steam, but they were owned by this conglomerate. And let's touch on how do we identify a Monarch pressing. There's a couple very simple ways. During the 1960s and 1970s, you would typically find MR in a circle stamped in the run-out groove of various titles. Now, in the late 60s and early 70s, these stamps, as they appear today, can be very, very faint. It's best to maybe have one of these with you to kind of help. But of course, use Discogs to help kind of triangulate the information. But that's one of the main ways that you can determine if you have a Monarch pressing. Now, the other way was for Atlantic titles, like Atlantic Records and Atco titles. They always used a pressing plant ID in the suffix of their catalog number, which would appear on labels. So just look for a -MO if you're looking at an Atlantic label title or an Atco title. I've got about 12 different examples of great pressings I'd like to share. And we'll get started with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, their second album, You're Gonna Get It. It was released in 1978. You know, it took Petty and the Heartbreakers a couple albums to kind of find their way. They had a couple, standout songs on that first album, of course. Breakdown, American Girl. But You're Gonna Get It was a little bit of a false start for Petty and the Heartbreakers. They were still kind of finding their way, finding their sound, refining their sound. This is the album cover, probably one of the worst covers of all time, in my opinion. I just don't think there's a lot of creativity there. This actually also happens to be a gold stamped promo, which is always a little bonus. There's a look at the back cover. But this did have a couple redeeming qualities as far as great songs. I Need to Know was on this album. That led off side 2, and Listen to Her Heart. Also love Restless and Baby's a Rock and Roller. All of those are on side 2. This was on the Shelter label with kind of the UFO and that S logo. Also, you'll see the kind of eighth note ABC Records. But this was mastered at Capitol and pressed at Monarch. If you can find this particular pressing, it's fantastic. Again, just comes rolling out of the speakers with wild abandon. Love, love, love the sound of this record. Probably not my favorite Petty record, but it sounds absolutely amazing. Led Zeppelin freaks will tell you, those in the know that the Monarch pressings are highly desirable. They sound amazing. Presswell are a close second, in my opinion. But the untitled Led Zeppelin 4, otherwise known as Zozo, I have an early 1971 pressing. It's definitely a Monarch pressing. You can tell by the -MO that's in the actual catalog number at the very bottom of the orange part there, if you can see. This is also mastered by George Peckham, the legendary English mastering engineer. Check out the sheen and the shine on this record. I mean, this thing, where are we? It's 51 years old now as we sit here in late July of 2022. This thing sounds absolutely amazing. It rivals my Led Zeppelin 2 RL Hot Cut. This particular version has Pecco on side 1, and then I've got Pecco Duck on side 2. An amazing pressing. If you don't have a copy of the Untitled Led Zeppelin 4, this is really, really, really recommended. Just put on rock and roll and listen to those fills by Bonham. They are crisp, they are clean, they hit your soul in all the right ways. A legendary Monarch pressing is Led Zeppelin Untitled. One of the best overlooked Rolling Stones albums was the 1976 album Black and Blue. This was a really interesting period for the band. Mick Taylor had left the band, so the Stones were actually auditioning several different guitarists. Three different guitarists actually appear on this album, in addition to Richards, of course. That would be Ronnie Wood, Harvey Mandel, and the great Wayne Perkins. This album has Memory Motel, Fool to Cry, and the fantastic Hand of Fate. It's a Monarch pressing. It sounds absolutely amazing. This is one of the better recorded Rolling Stones albums of the entire catalog. It was mastered at Sterling Sound as well. Another bonus point. Look for the Monarch pressing of this title. You'll be amazed. 1975 Roxy Music release, Siren. Of course, Jerry Hall there on the cover. Now, Brian Ferry and Roxy Music, they're actually touring this fall, believe it or not. I saw Brian Ferry last summer in Denver. This guy can still bring the goods. He's got an amazing vocal range for someone in their early 70s at this point in time. He always shows up in an immaculate suit, looking absolutely fantastic. But back to this album, Sirens, 1975. Love is a Drug, Both Ends Burning. This is a Monarch pressing on Atco that I have. And again, with the Atco label, you can see the MO at the very bottom there in the actual matrix. Hopefully that's coming through. Again, look at that sheen on this album from 1975, still looking fantastic today. This thing's in near mint condition, and those two songs in particular sound absolutely amazing, as well as several other deep cuts on this album. That is Siren, Roxy Music, another Monarch pressing to seek out. In 1980, ABBA were kind of getting close to the end of the road, at least for that period of the band. I can't believe they came back last year. Super Trooper is a fine album. I love the title cut. I also love The Winner Takes It All. You won't hear a better copy of this album than the pressing pressed at Monarch. And then also you want to find the U.S. Atlantic release with George Piros's information in the dead wax. George Piros is a fantastic mastering engineer. I have a mastering engineer video all about George Piros. Also, some of his Led Zeppelin cuts are highly regarded. But he also did a fine job on these several ABBA titles. But yeah, look for a Monarch pressing. Again, this is an Atlantic title, so easy to find the dash MO in the actual label matrix at the bottom of the orange there. I have to look back on this and see if these are showing up, but anyway. I think when I get my face in here, it wants to focus on my face. That is Super Trooper. A little bit of glare here this morning. 1980, ABBA. Another legendary Monarch pressing would be Let There Be Rock, 1977, AC/DC. This one is also mastered by the great George Peckham. This has got a Porky prime cut in the dead wax. It's on the yellow Atco label. You'll find -MO in the bottom of that label, along with the catalog number. That again, MO is the printing plant ID code that is used commonly among many different record companies to ID where a particular pressing was pressed. Geez, what? Not much to say about this incredible album, but Problem Child, Overdose, Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be. What a way to start off a side of an album that is, of course, side 2. Finished off with clocking in at 5 minutes and 27 seconds long. Whole lot of Rosie. Let There Be Rock, AC/DC, a legendary Monarch pressing. You know, here in 2022, it's easy to forget some of the early Los Angeles kind of smooth pop rock people that were just hitting the charts left, right, and center. I'm talking, of course, about, and this is one of the better comps that you can find, the Carpenters. That's that brown label with the embossed title. This was the singles, 1969 to 1973. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a dollar bin record, and you can usually find it in fantastic condition if you look around a little. There's Karen and Richard in the gatefold. A track listing. Everybody knows the Carpenters, and these songs have never sounded better. It helps that all of these songs were mastered by Bernie Grundman. That coupled with the Monarch pressing is really all you need. If you don't want to go get all the Carpenters albums, just look for this comp, and there is that sheen again. I kid you not, that could be a real thing about Monarch. Something in their vinyl compound. But this has also got the Monarch MR with the circle stamped in the dead wax. We've only just begun. Top of the World, Ticket to Ride, great cover. The fantastic single, Superstar. Love, love, love the Carpenters. R.I.P. Karen, but man, she will live on. One of my favorite personas as far as Pete Townsend is concerned is when he's snarling. I think that's when Pete is at his best as far as aggressively slashing whatever guitar he has in his hand. And I love Pete's vocal deliveries as well. I wish that he would do two things. Take a break from The Who, do a new solo album, and then do kind of a small theater tour. That's on my wish list for 2023 or 2024. So Pete and Pete's handlers, if you're listening, please, please, please consider that. This is the second proper solo album, Empty Glass. You know, the 1980 album Empty Glass is one of the standouts in Pete's solo catalog. I have an early U.S. pressing on the kind of new and improved purple and gray Atco label. Again, at the bottom of the label in the matrix, you'll see the monarch.mo -mo pressing ID. But yeah, back to the Snarling Pete. Rough Boys, Gonna Get You, Gonna Get Ya. The last song on, I think that's on side, where are we here? Last song on side 2. We also got one of the best crafted pop songs of that decade. You know, at the very start, 1980, Let My Love Open the Door. would have been a huge hit for The Who as well. And The Who still play that song. It's a song that can't be denied. It's so good. Love the little symbols on this custom inner with all of the different drink glasses and brandy snifters, etc. This is an incredible album, mastered by the great Tim Young. Look for Tim Tom, etched in the dead wax. But if you want to hear it at its best, look for a Monarch Pressing. This is a recent pickup, and I was pleasantly surprised to find the Monarch stamp in the dead wax. That's the MR with a circle around it. Todd Rundgren, 1970, Runt. Classic Todd album. We Gotta Get You a Woman, of course, is the standout. But some deep songs in here. You listen to these songs and you can hear all of the influences. But the two main influences for Todd on this album, in my opinion, are Brian Wilson and the Beatles. Listen to the song structures, the chord changes, the melodies, stuff going on in the background. There's 2 or 3 songs on here that could have been lifted from Pet Sounds. This is a great album, Runt, 1970. This was on that kind of cool blue Ampex label. See if you can find a Monarch Pressing. You'll be very happy with the sound. Very crystal clear. I was really happy. I mean, there's 0 surface noise on this cut, or on this pressing. Sounds great on this pressing. Cool standout album, Runt, Todd Rundgren. Funny little trivia here. It's got Soupy Sale's sons, Hunt and Tony, who also did a lot of work later with Bowie. They're on bass and drums on most of the songs in here, working with Todd. The 1973 album Frampton's Camel. Kind of an oddity, but a great album if you can find it. It's not that hard to find. Look for a Monarch Pressing. Frampton, of course, will be forever known for Frampton Comes Alive. The reason that album hit so good is because he had been touring behind some great songs with a great band for like 2 years in a row, and kind of got caught recorded at the Apex, sounding absolutely fantastic. 2 of those incredible songs that also were on Frampton Comes Alive are on this album. Those would be Do You Feel Like We Do and Lines on My Face. This also includes an interesting cover of the Stevie Wonder standout song, I Believe When I Fall in Love with You It Will Be Forever. That's a mouthful. It's not as good as Art Garfunkel's rendition, but it is quite good. Great guitar playing on this album. Incredible soundstage. Really recommended. Get a Monarch Pressing. Back to Led Zeppelin. One of the legendary pressings is the Monarch press for the self-titled debut album. I actually have a repress from 1974. It's a George Piros mastered copy. And in the label matrix, you will see -MO. Highly recommended. Monarch pressings and Led Zeppelin, they're like peanut butter and jelly. Go find some and give them a listen. Better yet, try and find them clean if you can. They will just reward you every time you put the album on for a spin. What an incredible debut album. Led Zeppelin, Good Times, Bad Times, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, on and on and on. Try and look for a Monarch pressing. Okay, the last one for today, That, of course, is the 75 Bee Gees album, Main Course. Did you catch that Bee Gees documentary? I think it might have been on HBO last year. Definitely worth your time. Worth the price of admission, of course. This was on the RSO label. Monarch Pressing in my hand. Side 1, track 1. Nights on Broadway. Track 2, Jive Talkin'. Doesn't get any better than that. This is really the Bee Gees coming into their own in kind of a second gear or second stage of that long career that they had. This is pre Saturday Night Fever, of course, but this was really kind of setting the stage, and it's an incredible album. It sounds fantastic. I think it's my favorite Bee Gees album. I do love that soundtrack to Saturday Night Fever, but this has got a special place in my heart. Look for a Monarch Pressing and you will be rewarded. That's a wrap for today. I took a look at the Monarch Record Manufacturing Company, a company whose pressings are widely held as some of the best that you can find out there. Any 1960s, 1970s pressings done by Monarch, I think, are some of the best examples of the titles that I showed today. But there is, there's like 4,500 different Monarch pressings. I didn't show any 45s, but they were also heavily active in pressing 45s and 7-inch singles as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you liked this video, I have several more in a similar vein. Check the different playlists under my channel. Maybe hit the like button, and if you would like to maybe subscribe to the channel, that would be fantastic. I've got a kind of a growing channel in the vinyl community. I am really pleased with the response that I'm getting, and if you have some other Monarch pressings, by all means, drop a comment down below and mention some standouts that you might have in your collection. And I look forward to interacting, and we'll see you back here soon. Thank you for watching.